We're here in Cheshunt. I'm out campaigning. This is the first of 7 stops today as I campaign up towards the local elections on May the 7th.
You just met a junior doctor and you asked them if they were on strike. What would a reform government actually do different from the NHS?
Well, look, the more money we put into the NHS, and you look at the massive increase in percentage GDP put into health over the last 10, 15 years, and you see there are even fewer beds. So I think it does need a much more business-like approach to how money is spent, how the whole thing's organised.
It's emerged overnight that Peter Mandelson failed his security vetting. The Foreign Office overruled it. Keir Starmer says he didn't know until this week.
I do not believe a word the Prime Minister says. I'm sorry, I don't, because when he was asked about this previously, he said in Parliament that under the vetting he had been told about the ongoing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He then said, outside of Parliament, that the whole procedure had been gone through and approved. Now, both of those statements cannot be right. And I do not believe that Ollie Robbins, who's one of the most senior civil servants in the country, would not have briefed the Prime Minister and briefed Number 10 about what the dangers were. So I don't believe a word the Prime Minister's saying, and they'll try and kick it into the long grass. But my view is this will further lead to electoral losses for the Labour Party on May the 7th, and I just don't think he can possibly survive, and nor do I think he should.
Yeah, Ollie Robbins out this morning. What's your reaction to that, and is this another example of Starmer's license?
Well, Ollie Robbins is the sacrificial lamb, and this is being done to try and save the Prime Minister. What they've promised Ollie Robbins for the future, I don't know. But no, the whole thing stinks, and I'm sorry, but Starmer's been caught. And, there he was telling us 2 years ago, a new kind of politics, a different kind of politics, and frankly, it looks even worse than it did before.
Prime Minister's making a statement to the Commons on Monday to correct what he previously told MPs about due process rules of law. Is this an admission that he is showbiz?
If the Prime Minister comes on Monday and says, what I told you before is a load of nonsense, then it's akin to an admission that he misled Parliament. Now the question is, did he willfully mislead Parliament? So that is a point that'll be debated. But what I'm in no doubt about is what he said outside Parliament was frankly lying to the public.
Just do that last bit again.
Sure.
Just a bit about that.
Yeah. But outside of Parliament, I'm absolutely convinced that he lied to the public by saying, yes, everything went through vetting, we were very happy with it.
Is time up for him now? Is it time?
Oh, the Prime Minister won't go now. He'll announce some inquiry to establish the truth. I believe that the reform vote in the north of England, in South Wales, in Labour's old traditional areas, I believe the reform vote will be the end of Starmer. We will be the thing that finishes this off, and he'll be gone by the middle of the summer.
And who would you prefer to place in the street? Who's worse for you?
Do you know what? I don't know what's going to happen, but I sense that the Labour Party will tack to the left because they're worried about the Green vote in the inner cities. That's my sense of where this will go. Who's the bookies' favourite? Probably Angela Rayner, but we'll see. Thank you.
Sir Ed Davey, from what we have learned in the last 24 hours, do you believe that the Prime Minister has deliberately misled Parliament?
I'm afraid the Prime Minister's story just doesn't stack up. He can't really expect us to believe that his top official went totally rogue on a matter of fundamental national security, or that having relied on the vetting process, he didn't check the facts in the months after Peter Mandelson resigned, and that when he supposedly learned about this on Tuesday, that he didn't directly come to the House of Commons to put the record straight. I'm afraid the story just is incredible, and I'm afraid he has to go.
And this is beginning to have more echoes of the Partygate saga, and you want the Privileges Committee to investigate the Prime Minister like they did with Boris Johnson. Do you think this will confirm your suspicions if they investigate him?
Listen, Boris Johnson and the Conservative government were held to account rightly by Parliament because they lied over Partygate and so many other things. The Privilege Committee was used then. I think we need to use the Privileged Committee now. We'll see what the Prime Minister says on Monday. We'll see any debates in Parliament next week. But we're really clear. I'm afraid that the Prime Minister's run out of track. He's got to go.
And the Liberal Democrats have also written to Sir Laurie Magnus, the government's ethics advisor, also asking to investigate the Prime Minister. So Keir Starmer's always sort of billed himself as a moral, ethical leader. Essentially that you can disagree with his ideas and methods, but he was a man trying to do the right thing. Are you questioning now whether that is truly who he is?
Well, we had hoped the Prime Minister would change things after the appalling chaos from the Conservatives, who were mired in scandal and sleaze. But I'm afraid he's failed to do that. There's been plenty of scandals under the Labour government. They failed on the economy and so much more, and now they're failing to bring the changes on scandal. I'm afraid the Prime Minister's story doesn't stack up. That's why we're trying to use every parliamentary mechanism open to us to hold him to account for the British people. And
friends of Ollie Robbins are starting to come to his defence. People like Kieran Martin, who was the ex-National Cyber Security Centre chief, he says Robbins was sacked without basis and was treated unfairly. Do you think he's been thrown under the bus here?
It certainly looks like that. There was a time when Keir Starmer said, don't blame your staff, but we've seen his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, go. Now we're seeing Ollie Robbins, a top Foreign Office official, go. I'm afraid the Prime Minister has to take responsibility. I think his story just doesn't wash. Why didn't he ask the questions about the vetting process, given he's relied on that in his defence? So it looks like some people have been treated very badly.
And there'll be a number of Labour MPs who also, like you, feel like the Prime Minister's time is running out, especially those who were very angry in the first place about that appointment of Peter Mandelson to be the ambassador in DC. Would you encourage them to speak out now and possibly side with opposition parties like the Liberal Democrats if there was a vote of no confidence in the House?
I think Labour MPs have got to look in the mirror and say, do they really want their government to be mired in scandal and sleaze in the way that Conservative governments were so damaged? I'm afraid they promised to change politics. They've failed to do that so far, and I hope Labour MPs will therefore stand up and be counted.
And just last one from me. This is obviously hypothetical, so we can't get into it, but it seems like a likely scenario that he may limp on until May, and then after the elections, Labour are expected to do badly, and he will essentially fall on his sword for that. If that was the scenario that he eventually stepped down in, would you feel like he's escaped scrutiny in that case?
Well, I do think Labour is going to lose a lot of seats at the local elections, and so will the Tories. We think the Liberal Democrats will make gains across the country. We'll see what the verdict of the voters is, but I'm afraid the verdict of certainly ourselves at the moment is the Prime Minister should go before the May local elections.